Well, hello and good morning. It should be because it's Friday and it's the end of August. I feel like this is like the school morning announcements.
Damn.
Um, but Phil
It's the
has four
lunch.
minutes until he's supposed to be in a meeting, so we're just gonna jump right in and have Phil kick us off with our weekly dose of digital. What's up, Phil?
Good morning, Andy. Good morning, viewers. Um, I think my screen is sharing already, so I'll just get into it. The first thing I wanted to show is this article I found that I really appreciated, and I think any developer would appreciate even more. But it's this idea of the just in case mindset when designing. And so what it does is it takes you through a few examples of, when you're designing things for web. That you should take into consideration. So a lot of elements are often repeated in designs. So if something looks great in your design file, you might want to um, think about it a little more. If there's ever, longer titles that need to be included, what happens if it's too long? Um, Buttons, what's the spacing like? What does it look like when there are two buttons next to each other as opposed to just one? Even if that's not in the original design, it could be a case down the line. Um, things like, you might be looking at something that has if it had a longer title, does it have the same effect? And so it's kind of a self-explanatory thing, but it was nice for me to see it because it's something that I always try to keep top of mind. Um, And then the second thing I wanted to share is this website called criticalaccess.org. I couldn't actually find if it was new per se, but it was new to me. But
Still
as it
counts,
says,
Phil.
it's
Still
a
counts.
community-driven project. That's what I figured. It's a community-driven project from the disabled list that collects and analyzes disability representation in media. So, it starts out with this chart. I know there's a name for these types of charts, but it escapes me. But basically, all of these are different ways that they sort these different examples of disability representation in media. So you can actually click on any of these and it will take you to another page that has as it loads, an explanation of what this category is all
Cool.
about, and then it has a list of examples that this category relates to. And then if you are to click into any of these examples, it'll actually show you like the ad uh, that it's talking about. And this I think as a resource is a great way for us to kind of just see the different things that are out there that are um, have disability representation in advertising. But what I think is even more beneficial is it has these like in-depth critiques about the way that the representation is used. So a lot of times um, they're pretty critical, which I think
Yeah.
is valid. So um, yeah, there's a lot of really good information in here, and I think as we move forward, just in the industry and um, try to be more representative of different groups of people, this is a great resource to look at. And then the last thing I'll say about it is you'll notice it says Comic Sans up in the top right corner. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And if you hover over it, it gives you this message about how Comic Sans um, is beloved among many in the disabled community just because it uh, is more accessible, I guess, which kind of gives me a new appreciation
Yeah.
for it. So, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to judge
Unless
Comic
that's like a
Sans,
super
but
meta
if you are to,
troll, but I would like to think that it's not.
who knows? Yeah, and if you click on it, it just changes everything to Comic Sans. So
This is very
that's
cool.
cool.
Critical Access, it's called criticalaccess.org. That's super inspirational, man. Thank you for sharing that, Phil.
Of course.
Yeah, you're
On that
dropping
note,
off the call, right? Yeah.
goodbye.
Bye, Phil. Thank you.
See you guys later.
All right. I think we said David was going to be on deck here.
Thanks, Phil. Okay. So today I wanted to share two or three things. First is something that you may have seen on Twitter. It's the Microsoft Flight Simulator that players are using to fly into Hurricane Laura. Yes, the hurricane that's going towards Texas and Louisiana, I believe. Um, they're doing virtual storm chasing from the comfort of their
Cool.
couch or their desk. And what's really interesting is the realism with the simulator. It really reflects, you can see the eye of the storm, its outer edges. And, if you're flying your plane up over the hurricane, it might freeze over. And so people are capturing this experience and sharing it on YouTube and Twitter. And it's just a really cool, you know, example of technology um, and real life events like coming together. And that's a screenshot of what it looks like flying through a hurricane. Um, so here's like, if you can see, it's a little small, but these are all green dots of people flying and tracking these in real life weather events. And originally it was built just to, show the weather around airports so that airport or pilots could like simulate flying in these, examples. But now it's expanded into so much more. And so you can see like this is going to, keep evolving, and people will probably be virtual storm chasing all around the world looking for tornadoes or other hurricanes or whatever. It's
Dude,
very
that is
cool.
super cool. I definitely am going to be doing that on lunch.
Next is just a small example of an agency or a company that's responding to COVID, and that's Beyond Meat, where they launched a website to sell plant-based meat directly to people online. Something that they were doing was really just doing grocery delivery services, restaurants, but now they've expanded the market to an e-commerce site. I think it's interesting in our vertical with food and drinks that, here's a big company that is finally making that conversion. And it's interesting to see, um, how they're advertising it and how they're selling it and making that um, change to a digital landscape. So that's two. And then the last one is actually um, just a couple of curated Chrome
Nice.
extensions. And we may have shared this in the past, but it's super helpful. And I think it helps with, my workflow. And there might be a few that help with yours. A few of the favorites of these eight. One is um, Wapalizer. It basically just identifies the web technologies that websites are built on. So if you're looking at like NewYorkTimes.com, you can see on the extension here, okay, they're using Google Analytics, they're using um, these web servers, the CDN, this Google AdSense for advertising. It's really just like a really quick way of seeing that in action. The other plugin that's on uh, listed on that site is What Font, and What Font will tell you. Uh, you can see my cursor; it'll tell you what font is being used, and then you can see the size, the line height, and the color, which is very helpful. If you're trying to, get inspiration, or if you're trying to replicate a client's site as well. And then I think there's one more. Um, it's called I'm a Gentleman, where you can easily save images with a click, which is helpful for me if, like, say I'm going to Friendship Dairies and I need images from their website. I can click on this extension and it will just download, all these unique assets that would otherwise take me, you know, 10, 20 minutes, or I would have to reach out to the client and ask them to gather up the images. And it's just an overall nice time saver. Just be careful if it has like huge collection, like say
Yeah.
you're going on Reddit, like
Right.
don't do that. Um, but for limited images, it's really
This is really awesome,
helpful.
David. I think it's actually probably helpful for a lot more than just designers, right? Like you could see a lot of people needing even just something as simple as like which font is this, or being able to say, hey, I already downloaded all the available assets from their website. Here you go. You know, and to your point, like it saves not just us time, but saves our clients time, and also can make us look, you know, sharper and tighter and smarter. You know, so those are awesome. I definitely would recommend people take a look at some of these extensions. Cool.
That's all.
Thanks, Debo. I think we had Jake on deck.
Sure, let's do it.
Yes, let's. But you're a blue. Oh, there you are. You were a blue Skype square for a minute. I don't know why.
Yeah, I also like to use that Wapalizer for, you know, when you see like a cool website or a client will send over a link and they're like, we really love that and we would like for you to do the same thing with it, $4,000, and then you can go in and be like, oh, this was a custom build, or oh, it looks like they just used a WordPress template, or this is Squarespace or something. So it kind of helps to put different sites into perspective as a developer to see, you know, how might we build this, really or did they cut corners, did they use a template? So it's really useful for that too. Speaking of templates, didn't mean to do that segue. This is actually a template that you can use in a product called Webflow, but I found this one really interesting. It was built by this copywriter who runs his own copywriting agency. He's got like a Master of Science and like marketing, and the way that he did kind of the lorem ipsum of the website is he actually wrote out what you should use each of these little blocks in his template for, and what the best way to use that section is from a marketing perspective. So it's called copyipsum.com. And you can see here, you know, come up with a good headline, a big idea. Here it says, you know, if you're selling a SaaS accounting tool, the message is peace of mind, how to use the CTA. Now grab your reader's attention. Now highlight the number one benefit. It kind of goes through and shows you what you should do from a copywriting and a UX and marketing perspective in this template itself. And of course, this whole thing is just kind of a way to sell this
book.
Of course it is. Written about copywriting. But I would say it's a pretty successful way to do this. And you can actually just use this template for free without purchasing that. But it kind of is a good way to show, you know, the credentials that he has. And also just a fun way to fill in a template with some real content that's still fake, but it's a little real and it's helpful. And a lot of times, you know, we're designing before we have all the content, and we're just kind of like filling things in. And this is a great way to, if there is something specific that you have in mind for the design, you can kind of write in what the purpose of that is to maybe help the copywriter or the client understand like what the purpose of the different areas is. So I really like this website. Love the colors as well.
Yes, across the board.
Next, I found this. It's a DEI training. It's geared towards startups just because it's easy to implement and it's fairly cost effective. But the whole thing is delivered over text message. So if you go and you see like, why are we doing this in text message? They actually have some really good stats and information on, you know, video training. I'm sure, as we all know, it's really time consuming. You're sitting through these like hours long videos and taking these dumb quizzes. And, you don't get a lot out of it. It takes a lot of time out of your day. Text messages have a really high open rate, 97% compared to, you know, emails or other types of apps in terms of delivery. Users already are consuming a lot of information. You know, on Twitter, Facebook, we're already seeing these types of infographics. So we're already primed to be learning from our phones, even if we don't think about it as going through a course. And, you know, they really see this as the future of learning. And so this is just kind of like a frictionless way to get started any type of course or, you know, timed interval training that you want to do. And of course, it's put on by this company called Arist. So they kind of have this platform that you can use to build your own text messaging training. So, you know, we could use this for clients. We could go in and set up, it's kind of like a build your own training course, and you can administer it all through text. So I thought that was just really interesting. And just another way, especially when everyone's remote and we're trying to like deliver all these things virtually. We don't want to maybe hold in-person seminars. This is just a really great way to deliver information to
I
people
think
through
that's a
text
really
message.
good kind of underpinning, right? It doesn't have to be specific to DE and I. That's just what it's being used for in this implementation. But what it does is start to scratch an itch about where else and how else could we be communicating to people in a way that they're going to be more receptive potentially to any sort of messaging. And I think that avenue historically, like texts, we kind of got those like early on in like SMS, and like people thought it was kind of an outdated way to do things, but with the incredible power of our phones now, it's actually a really savvy way to do things. And I think there's probably a lot more opportunity because of stuff like this that we probably just aren't really looking at closely enough. And I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of re-examine, is there a potential direct SMS or MMS strategy that we can employ for our own clients? I think it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Those are my shares.
Cool. I think the coin flip was Rob ending us with certain doom of some sort, so that puts Jeff on deck, I think.
Something like that.
Is that how it was supposed to go? You're blue square
so.
for some reason,
Yeah.
Jeff, but yeah, you
I am
and Rob
okay.
both are for some reason right now. I have no idea why.
That's interesting. Can you see my screen?
Can totally
now,
see
the
your
ADA.
screen.
All right, cool.
It's for the best.
So this is probably the best like summary and write-up of the need for accessibility and like the history behind it and kind of the whys and the whats and the repercussions of letting this stuff kind of fall off the radar. It's not like for a developer specifically. I think it's a good read for anybody. And I'll share this, but it's just very well written, very well formatted, easy to digest. The next two are kind of funny images that I found. This is, I don't know if they're funny. This is, it's a periodic table for UX designers. And the more I read each of these elements, the more I was like, oh yeah, like pretty much every experience that I have on the internet has a sign up, has a home screen, has some sort of ticketing system or settings or a menu. And the more I look through this, the more I realized like just how much there is to UX or to front end user interface design in general. It was just a nice like bird's eye view of that. And then this is kind of on the dev side of things. This is one project's worth of tabs and history and research on the web. So this is a decent look at everything that people have to look up when they're given a project. I just thought these two tabs are kind of interesting in uncovering the depth of some of this work.
There's a lot more than maybe meets the eye or what you would think of when it's like, yeah, go dev this.
Okay.
Yeah.
500 tabs later.
It's forensic in nature. I tell people sometimes, like doing development.
No, it honestly is. Yeah, there's a process involved. These 4 tabs, I was just kind of looking in general ways to make more compelling banners, right? Because I'm the banner boy. So, and I came across this common thread here of keeping things simple, right? Simple messaging, just simple imagery, simple call to action, prominent but simple. And yeah, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think maybe we can overcomplicate some of our designs and some of our banners pretty quickly, to our own detriment. Maybe not us specifically, but just banner design in general. Yeah. Fewer, smarter words. So like try and pare down the copy, relay the same information, but with just less on screen. Yeah. For sure. And then I came across the first banner ad ever. So this is it. Have you ever clicked your mouse right here? You will. The very first banner ad, 94. And it clicked through to this webpage. And it's from AT&T. And the thing that struck me as, well done about this is the fact that like the branding carries through. As hilarious and old school as the design may be, like the branding carries through, right, from this very simple messaging with a CTA of sorts, and in this branding to this website. I thought that was, 20 some odd years ago. It's pretty cool. And then how it's just interesting to see, old implementations of digital stuff. And then to a pretty interesting banner using GSAT, the same technology that we use, that just incorporates, some masking, unmasking, different imagery. Again, super simple copy, nothing flashy about it, good branding, strong CTA. So just thought, like, from the old to the new.
Yeah, what a long way we've come, right?
Yeah, quite a bit. A lot of consistencies, but a lot technologically has changed. That will wrap up.
Thank you for
my
giving
shares.
us a deep dive into the world of detectivery. None of those are words. So,
Yeah, no problem.
Rob, you're going to bring us home with something gloom and doom.
Not so much gloom
Okay.
and doom, but definitely depressing. So I do apologize
Hey,
in
you're no
advance
longer
for
a
that.
Skype square. That's cool. Just in time.
Oh, cool. All right. So yeah, like let's round this out by talking about police brutality.
let's.
Because that is something that obviously is on the top of everybody's minds right now. So this is a website that is called mappingpoliceviolence.org. And I'm not going to go through absolutely everything because we've only got 2 minutes left, but it is so intense as far as data goes. And it's been a while since we've given you like a really good data-driven website, but this is phenomenal. So first and foremost, it tells you how many people have been killed in 2020. There's a map showing all of the police killings that happened in 2019. Going down, you can actually see, like, so far we've only had 12 days where the police did not kill somebody. And on top of everything, actually, hold on, because I've already scrolled through this, but I'm going to scroll for the first time so that you can see some of the cool animations that they have as well. But there's so much dense information in here. They actually have, so this is talking about the Houston Police Department, especially from 2013 to 2019, and it shows the people that have been killed. It has their names, it has photos if there are any available. You can click on one and it will bring you to a news article about them. You can sort by race, by gender, if they were armed or not. Mostly is allegedly armed, which is very disturbing. If they had mental illness. There's so many different data points in here that are represented that it is just a really, really, really cool way to look at some really disturbing information. Following that, just another quick part is that they do have police scorecards for California in particular, where they basically grade each and every police and state trooper like departments and talk about all the different reasons as to why. So do they use lethal force more or deadly force more? And it's so disturbing, but it is also so cool to actually be able to see all of this information, to actually like know and quantify.
Yeah, I mean, there's
second site that I
definitely
wanted to look
there's
at real
definitely
quick.
something to be said for, taking pains to aggregate all of this data in a way that is digestible. And when you have data organized and displayed in this type of way, it's easier to take action on it. So in an ideal world, this isn't just to be here for everyone to know about. It's for people to contextualize and then come to some sort of conclusion about what can they do to make a difference and get involved, which would be a lot harder without somebody or many people probably taking the pains to make this all make sense, at a level that we can all understand it.
Absolutely. Which is actually a good point, because when we talk about taking a stand and whatnot, when we think about any time that a person may have been mistreated or anything by the police, they often don't necessarily know what to do or where to go with it, because they just assume, well, I can't go to the police and whatnot. So this is a website called Rahim, which is basically a really cool and easy way where you can talk about you were helped, protected, profiled, or neglected, harassed, etc., you can basically write a report about the police in your city. And in doing so, they will be able to help you if you happen to have a negative experience. They can help you to report the incident. They can actually help you through everything and give you guidance as far as like what to do next. And it's a really good open way to kind of create a community for people that this has happened to. And I think it's something that's probably not necessarily well known. As you can see, there's 2,481 incidents reported so far, which is awesome. But I feel like there's probably a lot more that haven't been reported. And I think that the more people know about this site, the more they might actually interact with it and hopefully get some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
That's hopefully people are using it, for, the intended purpose, versus trolling.
Yeah.
It. But
true.
You got to start somewhere. I think those are both really cool examples of how we can use, our digital tools and capabilities to drive change and drive action. We may work for a creative company that does marketing, but we all have the ability to, do something beyond that in ourselves. And I think things like, when we do the vote needs you and that type of stuff, those are good examples of how we can kind of collectively combine our powers and do something more meaningful. So that's really cool. I would be remiss if I didn't ask those of you still watching to subscribe. We are 4 subscribers away from having a properly branded Partners in Napier YouTube account. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. Anything else we want to share, gang, or is that pretty much it for the day?
It's all on my list.
Go right there, 96 subscribers. 4 away, guys. Woo. You can do it. Help us get there. Yeah, Matt's going to go check out the flight simulator. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for talking in the chat. Raina, we miss you too. Matt, Aaron, love you guys. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next month. Peace.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.